Hello, I'm Zash, and welcome to episode 21 of my G-Senjou no Maou, or The Devil on G-String Let's Read. Joining me, as always, is my co-reader Faye. Now, I'm going to have to trigger warning this episode. Someone, it's highly implied, gets sexually assaulted. So, yeah. You may not want to watch this or listen. Also, this is the Tsubaki Bad End episode. So if you want to avoid that, just stop watching at about the 30-minute mark. If you get to the point where I cut the sex scene, you can just stop right there and go on to the next episode. Anyways, here we go.
The weather had been rather unstable recently. Sometimes it would snow from nightfall straight through to dawn. Yet as time pushed forward, the asphalt pavement dried, leaving Tsubaki nothing but inconsistent, blurred traces of white by the time she awakened. Tsubaki ignored her racing heart and stood as still as a street lamp, gazing at the familiar home her family was about to leave. The ants patrolled in squadrons near her feet. A black cloud of them gathered around the moth's broken wing and moved it to the colony in the garden. That sounds terrible. Perhaps the decaying innocence within Tsubaki's heart also served as valuable food in preparation for the upcoming spring. The overwhelming kidnapping, her responsibility to her family, and her feelings for Kyousuke might all be guiding her to a nest that most suited her true self. Hiroaki walked out the door. He closed in on Tsubaki like a puppy.
Alright, let's go!
He made a fist, bent down, and then jumped with excitement. He looked up at Tsubaki with a bright floral smile. Her brother's every move was dear to her. She'll take Hiroaki to kindergarten, then head to school. This was her daily routine. If Hiroaki begged for a snack halfway, she would stop by a convenience store. If he wanted to play, she'd comply as long as time allowed. He was a child, after all. As his big sister, it's only natural for her to indulge him. But today was different. Tsubaki wouldn't go to school. Instead, she'll wait for Kyousuke to contact her. Depending on the schedule Kyousuke set out for her, she might not even go to pick up Hiroaki. She continued to hold on to her brother's hand. His chubby little arms were quite soft under her fingers.
Your hands are so soft, sis.
Are you saying I'm fat? Her tone suddenly grew strict. You're soft too, Hiroaki. Are you eating too many snacks?
Cool, they're just like your hands. Dad always says I'm just like you.
Just like me. Her brother's innocent smile made Tsubaki a touch uneasy. It was as if she'd seen that exact smile elsewhere. As if she'd seen it a sickening number of times. Within the polished glass of a mirror every day of her life. Why? What was it about her brother that bothered her? Let's go. As a twisted emotion gathered in her chest and ran down to her gut, she noticed that she was dripping with sweat. Kyousuke must be an early riser. His call came a few short moments after 7 o'clock. After glancing at her brother as he hummed beside her, she took the cell phone in her hands. You're up early, Azakun.
Does that inconvenience you?
An inquisitional tone came from the other end of the line, though Kyosuke's tone changed often. There was a critical difference between this and the boy she'd become accustomed to at school. Tsubaki responded as if intimidated by his mannerisms. Not at all. Would now be a good time to come over?
Are you outside right now?
Oh? Yeah.
Shall I infer that this means you're escorting a sibling to kindergarten?
Tsubaki panicked when he pinpointed the situation right away.
Come quickly.
Right now?
Right now.
An alarm rang in Tsubaki's heart. She hadn't experienced such anxiety since her last meeting with Maou. She had neither the courage nor even the intent to defy him. I understand. I'll come right away. Tsubaki's answer seemed to have satisfied Kyousuke. He thanked her and hung up.
One-chan, what's wrong?
Kids are really good at reading people's feelings, she thought. The words Tsubaki wanted to say were stuck in her throat. Still, Tsubaki could only relax if she let the desire she'd only recently formed guide her. It's nothing strange for a girl her age to be happier with friends and family. Hiroaki, can you go by yourself? He's gonna be hit by a car or something, isn't he? Her brother had been kidnapped once. You can, right? You said you could do it by yourself yesterday. After learning of her brother's kidnapping, Tsubaki had burst into tears. She could do nothing but cry and shout, "It's all because I was late picking him up. Your sister has something really important to do right now, so we have to say bye-bye here." Burying the perplexed emotions deep in her heart, she left her old self behind. Was it really such a cruel thing to do? Abandoning her brother to help the man she loves work? While it did come with the added cost of skipping school, it was nothing as severe as breaking the law, nor was it an act atrocious enough to earn the contempt of others. It was merely taking a risk. Tsubaki, who had always worried about such trivial things, suddenly noticed how insignificant she was. She couldn't help getting angry. "I'm leaving now. I'll pick you up later." Her brother knew nothing about Tsubaki's feelings, until Tilda said,
My school ends at noon today, so won't you still be at your school, One-chan?
Tsubaki broke out into a sweat once more after being stared into by Hiroaki's innocent pupils. "One-chan's school ends at noon too today." Being put on the spot, she lied without thinking. In the end, Tsubaki still promised to pick up her brother, but this may have been purely a function of remorse or guilt.
Alright, I'll be waiting here. Play kick the can with me, okay?
Sure.
This is going to end in tears.
She averted her eyes. Afterwards, she silently made her way to Kyosuke's house. The crowded train to Central Boulevard gave her the impression that everyone was watching her, leaving her unsettled all the while.
Ellipses. Megalipses. I led Tsubaki to my room. When I met her at the station, she bore a grim, shadowed, alien expression. "So, you really showed up."
Thanks for inviting me.
Is this your first time here?
No, it's my second time.
Ah, that's right. Are you feeling all right? I apologize for calling you over all of a sudden. Tsubaki weakly shook her head, indicating there was no problem. Is something troubling you?
Huh? What do you mean?
It's written all over your face. I laughed. Your relationship with your family hasn't been smooth lately, huh?
Is it that obvious?
She looked embarrassed, like a child caught red-handed. Don't you think you've been a bit too easy on them in the past?
Are you saying I care too much?
I know it's difficult to manage a big family, but isn't it enough to just do what needs to be done? You brought your brother to kindergarten before you arrived here, didn't you?
No?
What? You didn't? Tsubaki only replied with a quiet nod. She seems to have allocated my directions as the top priority. She rushed here after leaving her brother.
I didn't go to school either.
Do you feel bad about it? You'll get used to it soon enough.
Yeah. But is that something that someone should really get used to?
Whether it's a problem or not is something a person should generally decide for oneself. But we don't have time to waste over trivial things like that, so long as she's going to be following my directions. The old Tsubaki, the straight-laced and honest girl, would be of questionable use to me. I was hoping for a relationship on par with those between cult leaders and their followers. No matter how ridiculous and inhumane the leader's commands become, the followers will always take them as gospel from God and obey. Does Tsubaki have the potential to become the zealous believer that I wish for? Hey, Tsubaki, aren't you interested in the reason I'm working like this? Tsubaki snapped her head up in surprise after suddenly being asked a question. I decided to blow my cover and reveal everything. I might be living a luxurious life right now, but there was a time when I lived in absolute poverty.
Huh? Really?
She sighed as her eyes betrayed her shock. I remember reading a random query on anthropology that knowing about someone's past leads you to sympathize with them. I need to close the gap between Tsubaki and me. It started around the beginning of middle school. Prior to my enrollment there, I had a happy family. After a certain occurrence, though, everything began to change.
And then the Fire Nation attacked. An occurrence?
I know I'm the one who brought it up and everything, but please, don't ask about that. It's the source of many a headache.
I understand. Sorry.
I slowly refreshed my memories. Even if I told you, you might not believe me. I recalled my past. I slowly opened the closed book to page 1. Every time I look back, the same scenery appears before my eyes. Samajina Kyousuke, an anxious child, alone in a dark room. It was a nameless village in Hokkaido. My mom and I lived in a shack adjacent to the cattle fodder and hay storage of a small farm. When winter reached our home, the temperatures dropped below 0. Our windows weren't double-layered. The flooring reeked of cow feces, and centipedes fought spiders over hairs and a few scattered rice grain. To my surprise, cockroaches managed to survive there too, so far up north. Well, cockroaches can survive anything.
Yeah.
Why did you live a life like that?
My father destroyed my home.
Your father?
Yes. You may have heard me say Papa before, but when I do so, I'm referring to my foster father. He adopted me sometime later due to certain circumstances. In any case, my real father was already gone by the time of this story. He wasn't missing or dead or anything, but he owed the mafia a lot of money. Thus, my mom and I had to constantly keep moving. And in the end, we settled down in what was essentially a literal pigsty.
Oopsies.
A distant relative lent us the place. His name was Canu, or something like that. Apparently it carries some sort of discriminatory nuance in that region, but I'm not sure. Canu gave us a place to stay when we had nowhere else to go. But he was a real son of a bitch, with a criminal record to prove it. He might have been doing some day labor, but he would sometimes harass my mom by flaunting his earnings. My mom had a few random jobs too, but the village provided few employment opportunities for outsiders. As a result, we could only obey Canu's every whim. The biggest problem was kerosene. The price of kerosene in the farming villages is unbelievably high, and when it's cold enough to make your nose run, an empty oil can is practically a death sentence. Though Mum often made fuel for the heater her top priority, the lack of resources grew more dire each day. We lit that old heater once a day, and that would guarantee us an hour or two of warmth. My mother and I always took that opportunity to wrap ourselves up in sheets and talk about anything and everything. If only we had more money. That's what I always said. I begged for a job as a paper delivery boy, but Mum didn't permit it. She was worried that my body couldn't withstand the cold. She said that walking in the snowy mountains to deliver newspapers would be too harsh for a child. Yet still, our fuel stockpiles were waning by the day. I think a snowstorm forced the whole village into a shortage. Only 1 hour was left of the heartwarming 2 hours each day. My school was small, with no more than 50 kids total. I pleaded with them, every single one, to share what they could. In the end, they passed me off as a beggar and provided nothing. They said, "You must be wasting oil all the time. That's why you don't have enough." They didn't share a drop. We never wasted anything. But then, I thought that maybe everyone else was in the same situation as we were, but were patiently enduring it. I returned home, feeling a bit bad about what I had done. But, after thinking about it, it did seem a bit strange. Our fuel was being used up faster than we were consuming it. I even began to suspect my own mother of using the heater in my absence. Shortly thereafter, I met Kano in front of the shack. He became enraged when he saw me and started yelling desperately, "Who do you think is letting you live here?" The bastard was swinging a jar of kerosene back and forth. I think he stole it from us. I questioned him. He was as muscular as a bear, and his face was always red, as if he were constantly intoxicated. Upon hearing our argument, the people living nearby gathered round. Kanu was a cunning man. He was good at keeping up facades and hiding his true self. He pretended to be a saint helping some outside woman and her young son make ends meet. Thus, in the end, we were the ones in the wrong. Sometime later, I mentioned it to the school teacher. However, from that one conversation, I finally understood how the people in the village viewed my mother and I. Working at a bar on the outskirts of the village seemed to have earned Mum a bad reputation. Come on, it was just a bar. It's not like she was a prostitute. Still, the people in the village used the Hokkaido farming village dialect to humiliate my mum as if she were one. I used this chance and begged my mother to leave the village with me, but she was too exhausted. She was a kind woman, but she was just exhausted. And there was nowhere to go, so there was really nothing we could have done. Ellipses. And then, one day, our heater suddenly began having enough oil to burn through the whole night. Kanu's attitude changed too. He bought stuff for me, trying to win me over. He stopped calling me a brat, and sometimes the three of us had dinner together. As a kid, I never wondered why a hypocrite like Kanu suddenly decided to help us. And then, I saw why. I saw the sight of a woman lying hogtied, screaming. In my very home, no less. Maybe I shouldn't have taken the day off due to illness. The thick smell of alcohol was nearly suffocating. A 1-liter beer bottle laid upturned on the floor. The bear of a man who had just finished drinking, and he didn't even try to hide his naked lower body. He just stared at me. I still remember those foul, yellow teeth, that face like a rock, those hard, pulsating muscles.
That sounds gross.
Kanu's strong body, trained by years of manual labor, scared me to death. I was overwhelmed. He beat me that night until I thought my stomach would fly out. He kicked me until my back was breaking. Mum protected me, crying non-stop. The son of a bitch just screamed a few curses at her and yanked her by the hair. He approached her, his breath saturated with the cloying scent of alcohol, all the while staring at me with glaring eyes. "Kyousuke, you can't take this, can you? Why can't you take this? Can you take this? It's all your fault. It's all because you don't have money." The fucker never stopped talking. He reminded me that he was the real owner of our filthy pigsty. "Get out if you don't like it, you animals." He proudly stated that he was free to treat his livestock as he pleased. "If you animals don't want to accept this, you can get to work. Kyousuke, Can you feed your mother? Can you rent a house? Can you go to school? And can you make a living? Mum bowed down and apologized. She said it was our fault. She pretended to be strong, told me it was okay, and then demanded that I apologize immediately to that son of a bitch. I obeyed my mother. Ellipses. Ellipses. Tsubaki's shoulder shivered like she was struck by lightning as she stood silent. That was a long story. What do you think?
Ellipses.
Tsubaki frowned and mumbled.
What a bad person. Your poor mother.
I think I just wasted my breath. That's not what I mean. That asshole was trash. And my mother was unfortunate, yes. True enough. What I want to say is, Tsubaki, I paused for a moment before continuing. Back then, if I had only a fraction of the money I have now.
But weren't you only a middle school student back then?
Take a good look at Central Boulevard. There are people who are obviously elementary school students claiming to be high school students in order to sell accessories or tickets, right?
Yeah, but this is a big city.
Anyway, I didn't have any money. My luck might be rotten, but what did you expect? No goddess of luck would shine on someone who couldn't pay her fee. Suddenly, Tsubaki seemed to have thought of something and said,
My family should be okay, right?
I think their situation is quite severe. Have you noticed your dad being sort of grim lately?
No, not at all. Isn't he kind of optimistic?
I don't know, but just in case, I'd like you to take what I said to heart.
Yeah. I should try to support my family. Everyone's counting on me.
I'll compensate you for your work if you decide to help me. It won't be much, but I think you'll find the pay is a lot better than a part-time job. I smiled, and the tension left Tsubaki's face.
I'll do my best. After hearing your story, I feel that I should evaluate my family again.
What do you mean?
I mean, Hiroaki. What do you think of that kid?
I think he's spoiled compared to the average child.
That's about right. I think I'm spoiling him too.
You could be doing him a disservice, you know. He'll only be worse off for it as an adult.
That's what his teachers from his kindergarten say too.
Then I'll go ahead and tell you the rest. To be honest, I've been seeing some things I didn't really approve of in your dealings with him. I crossed my arms in front of my chest and continued. Why don't you scold him? I think it would be for the best if you got seriously angry once in a while.
I scolded him for the first time recently.
The time when he ran out of the house at night without permission? I lightly sighed. That was more like Tsubaki screaming hysterically than a proper scolding. Wouldn't it be better if you put more feeling into it?
Really? How would I do that?
Are you seriously asking that?
I've never been mad at anyone, so I don't know how to express it.
Isn't it okay to just let your feelings guide you? Take out all your anger, and even a child would understand how you feel.
Okay,
Tsubaki's pupils were overcome by a strange glow.
I'll try it.
She gave me a straight stare.
If he leaves by himself again, then I'll...
That sentence seemed to be to herself as much as to me. We've chatted for a long time now.
Right, so what should I do?
Do you know how to use a computer?
I can surf the internet.
Good. Then have a look at the data over there first. I pointed at a pile of paper on the table. It's a list of buildings managed by the SOA Alliance. Facility management is broad and complicated, but the Izai Corporation capabilities were widely recognized.
These? All of them? Aren't there around 500 of them?
What you're doing is very simple. Go through the list and pull out any files that include supplementary facilities.
Supplementary facilities?
For example, swimming pools, parking lots, or sports grounds. After you pick them out, input their names and phone numbers into the computer.
That sounds really time-consuming.
That's why he's having you do it.
Yeah.
You should be done by dusk.
Dusk.
It seems that she had something to say, but stopped for some reason. What? Did you have any prior engagements?
No, it shouldn't be a problem.
I'll be in the room right there. Just call me if you have any questions. Tsubaki started organizing the documents right away. Ellipses. Megallipses. Hey, Tsubaki, your cell phone's ringing. I took a break and checked up on Tsubaki during the afternoon. Tsubaki froze, staring intently at the cell phone.
It's from home. What should I do?
What do you mean, what should you do? Pick it up. You should be at school now, right?
Oh, yeah. Why am I panicking?
The ringing stopped as we spoke. Are you gonna call them back?
No. It's probably nothing important anyway. Dad is always making meaningless phone calls now that I bought a cell phone.
And now they think you're kidnapped.
Yeah.
Tsubaki returned to her work once more. She seems to be doing a good job. The names of the buildings are already listed on the computer monitor. You're in good shape.
Really? I might be suitable for easy jobs like this.
You really helped me out. I'm glad I found you, Tsubaki.
Really?
She glances at me happily through the corner of her eye.
Hey, Asaka-kun.
Yes?
I told Hiroaki I'd pick him up in the afternoon.
Ah.
I promised to meet him at the park. He'll make it home by himself, right? If I don't show up?
Well, normally he would.
Yeah.
But are you sure that's okay? I pressed her. It's no fun if she just leaves in the middle of work. But Tsubaki is already the kind of person I want her to be.
I'll head out when I get the work done. Hiroaki can get home on his own just fine. I want to work hard and make money for my family. That would be a better use of my time, even for Hiroaki.
Ellipses.
This might sound a little bit, but if we had money, we wouldn't have had to leave our home, right? And we wouldn't have had to borrow money when Hiroaki was kidnapped.
Now you get what I was saying earlier. Tsubaki smiled. They are corrupting the cinnamon roll.
He is. I'm so glad I met you, Asaka-kun.
Why bring that up now?
Well, you have a lot of qualities that I lack.
That's not a bad thing. Tsubaki has plenty that I lack too. Or rather, she is composed entirely of qualities I lack. Still, in the end, she will become a person like me. A suspicious, cheating, self-protective schemer. These traits are neither just nor evil. Everyone acts this way. I was filled with a sense of satisfaction, having confirmed that my way of life was not mistaken. Well, let's work for a bit longer.
Yeah.
After that, Tsubaki pushed her natural hardworking tendencies to 120%. Until the moment she clocked out, her hands worked swiftly, as if her perplexed heart had already been blown away by the wind. Megallipses. Ellipses. Afterward, the sky darkened, and I walked Tsubaki home. Of course, sending her safely home wasn't my only reason for doing so. Tsubaki and I walked side by side in the deserted park. Ellipses. I gazed into her face and casually stepped in toward her. Tsubaki was pressured into taking a step backward. Now then. I had fooled around with Tsubaki for 2 days, or should I say, Tsubaki wasted 2 of my days. 2 of my precious days have been wasted by a woman whom I have no interest in. I just thought it might pay off in the future if I could make an obedient dog out of her. I've also gotten her address and phone number. She could serve as a last resort in a time of difficulty. She's wasted a lot of my time recently. It's only natural to have her compensate for it. Tsubaki, I've known your feelings all along.
Alright. What brought this on?
I stared into Tsubaki. Her round eyes glowed in the dark with apprehension. But at the same time, a feeling of anticipation lurked within them.
If you want a bitch to do what you want, you have to eat her up,
quoth Gonzo. I love you too, Tsubaki. I reached my hands out as I spoke.
What?
Tsubaki was shocked by my bold actions and shook her head a bit in resistance. But that was short-lived.
Azai-kun,
She nuzzled her face into my chest like a kitten.
I'm so nervous.
She turned sweet pretty fast, too. Well, since we're on YouTube and the scene gets a bit explicit, I'm gonna have to cut it. And it's totally not because we are too chicken to read this on air. Seriously. Honestly. Why don't you believe me? It's not because we're chicken. Really. Anyways, carrying on. The kidnapping had already been abandoned to the corner of our minds alongside other memories. My obedient Tsubaki followed me, losing all sorts of things, but accumulating money in compensation. Rather than returning to the family, who patiently awaited her, she decided to make my house her home. Oh my.
Bold.
Her diary had been abandoned long ago, and in its place, she input passage after passage into the computer. She's now helping me work every day, and going out at night whenever there's time. In short, a considerable amount of time has passed.
Kyousuke-san, I'm back.
A voice came from the door. You're late.
Sorry, I went to a club for a while. A club?
If you walk the streets at night looking like that, people might think you're a prostitute. What, in her school uniform?
I doubt they did that much art.
Yeah.
Don't you dare group me with them.
Her mannerisms have become more crude as well. Cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana. She's tried it all. She even met Gonzo once. Surprisingly, Gonzo had a liking for Tsubaki. He said the more pure the person is, the more potential for evil they have. Get this data into the computer quickly. Also, I want this here mailed out by tomorrow morning.
Sure. I'll get it done even if I have to give up sleep.
A slave to my orders, Tsubaki. She became my assistant before I even noticed. I will continue to follow Gonzo, but one day, I too will reach the top of this dark world. Hey, I slowly caressed her breasts. Tsubaki's body reacted with a jump. The smell of a woman tickled my senses. I began toying with her body, sucking her lips, teasing, violating her.
Oh, please. Can't you just insert the darn audio of the voice actress?
I wanted to destroy something inside Tsubaki. But as for what that was, my instincts told me I'd never find out. I thank God for that every day. Ellipses. Ellipses. No, I can't leave Tsubaki, a drunken, drug addict, sex addict, under the command of Maou. I will have to fix this. And those who listen to Steins Gate know how I do this.